The coffee shop was silent except for the faint hum of a guitar from the corner speaker. But for Mia, the world roared. She clutched the worn journal, its pages trembling in her hands, as four pairs of eyes locked on her. The secret she'd buried for years was no longer hers. Allenite was alive, raw, and undeniable. They'd been best friends since college. 5 women bound by laughter, late-night confessions, and shared dreams in their small Ohio town. Mia, the quiet songwriter. Elise, the fierce lawyer. Tara, the free-spirited artist. Lena, the steady nurse. And Sophie, the charismatic teacher. All married, all mothers, all tethered to lives they'd built with care. They met every Friday at Brood Awakening, their sanctuary, where the world couldn't touch them. But tonight, Mia's discovery had shattered that safety. A single song, scribbled in Lena's unmistakable handwriting, had unraveled everything. "I didn't mean for you to find it," Lena whispered, her voice breaking. Her hazel eyes, usually so calm, flickered with panic. The journal, left carelessly on the table during their last meetup, held lyrics that weren't just words, they were a confession. A love song, aching and vivid, about a woman with Mia's dark curls and quiet smile. Mia's heart pounded as she read the lines again in her mind. "Your shadow moves before you, and I'm lost in its sway." Mia's husband, Tom, was a good man, steady, kind, the father of her 2 boys. She'd never questioned her life until this moment. But Lena's words, those tender, desperate words, stirred something Mia had buried since their college days, when late-night talks felt like they could rewrite the stars. She looked up, meeting Lena's gaze, and the air between them crackled with a truth neither could ignore. "I don't understand," Elise cut in, her voice sharp but trembling. She leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the table. "Lena, you wrote this about Mia." Her tone wasn't accusatory, but it carried the weight of their shared history, years of secrets they thought they'd all shared. Elise's own marriage to David, a high school sweetheart, was a polished facade, but no one dared say it. Not until now. Tara, always the one to diffuse tension, laughed nervously, brushing her wild red hair from her face. "Okay, hold on. This is intense. But we're friends, right? We can talk about this." Her eyes darted to Sophie, who sat unusually silent, her fingers twisting the wedding ring she'd worn for a decade. Sophie's husband, Mark, was the town's beloved pastor, and her life was a performance of perfection. But her silence now spoke louder than words. Lena's hands shook as she reached for her coffee, then pulled back. "I didn't plan this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wrote it to let it out, to stop feeling like I was drowning." She looked at Mia, her eyes pleading. "I never meant to hurt you, or anyone." Mia's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to run, to pull Lena close and ask why she'd waited so long to say it. Instead, she pushed the journal across the table. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice raw. "All those years, Lena, all those nights we stayed up talking, and you never said a word." The coffee shop felt smaller, the walls closing in as the weight of Lena's confession settled over them. Tara reached for Mia's hand, but Mia pulled away, her mind racing. She saw flashes of their past Lena's shy smiles in college. The way she'd linger after their group hugs. The times Mia caught herself staring too long. She'd dismissed it as friendship. Nothing more. But now, the truth was a wildfire, burning through the life she'd built. Elise stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is too much," she said, her voice tight. "We're not kids anymore. We have families. Responsibilities. You can't just—" She stopped, her eyes softening as they landed on Lena. "I don't know what to say." Sophie finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "Maybe we need to listen first, before we judge." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Sophie, who always seemed so sure of her place in the world, looked at Lena with something like understanding. It was a crack in her perfect exterior, a hint of her own unspoken struggles. Tara nodded, her artist's heart always open to messiness. "We're still us," she said, her voice warm but firm. "We've been through worse. We can figure this out together." But even she sounded uncertain, her optimism strained. Mia's eyes returned to the journal. The lyrics were a map to a place she'd never dared go. But now she stood at its edge. She thought of Tom, asleep at home, trusting her completely. She thought of her boys, their laughter filling the house. And she thought of Lena, her best friend, who'd carried this secret alone for so long. "I need time," Mia said finally, her voice breaking. She stood, grabbing her coat, and walked out into the chilly Ohio night. The others watched her go, the silence between them heavy with questions no one knew how to answer. As Mia walked, the stars above seemed brighter, sharper, like they were watching her. She didn't know what came next, but she knew one thing: the song had changed everything, and there was no going back. The Ohio wind bit at Mia's cheeks as she wandered the quiet streets, the journal tucked under her arm like a grenade. She couldn't go home, not yet. Not with Lena's words echoing in her mind, each line a spark igniting memories she'd locked away. By the time she reached the park, her breath was visible in the cold, and her heart felt like it might split in two. Back at Brood Awakening, the four women sat in stunned silence. Lena stared at the table, her fingers tracing the grain of the wood, as if it could anchor her. "I've ruined everything," she whispered, her voice thick with guilt. She'd always been the steady one, the nurse who held hands during bad news. But now she felt like the patient, exposed and fragile. Elise paced near the counter, her heels clicking sharply. "You didn't ruin anything," she said, but her tone was clipped, her lawyer's mind already calculating the fallout. We need to think this through. What does this mean for all of us? For your families?" She stopped, her eyes narrowing. "Lena, did you ever plan to tell her?" Lena shook her head, tears spilling over. "I thought I could keep it inside. I thought if I wrote it down, it would stay there, safe." She laughed bitterly. "Stupid, right? I should have known better." Tara leaned forward, her bracelets jangling. "It's not stupid," she said fiercely. "You love her. That's not something to be ashamed of." Her words were bold, but her eyes flicked nervously to Sophie, who still hadn't moved. Tara's own marriage to Jake, a laid-back musician, was open and chaotic, but even she felt the ground shifting beneath them. Sophie's fingers tightened around her coffee mug. Love isn't the problem, she said softly. It's what comes after. The choices we make. Her voice carried a weight that made the others turn. Sophie rarely spoke of her own struggles, but her marriage to Mark was a gilded cage. She'd spent years perfecting the role of the pastor's wife. But now, Lena's confession was a mirror, reflecting her own buried truths. Meanwhile, Mia sat on a park bench, the journal open in her lap. The lyrics were raw, unguarded, each word a piece of Lena's heart. I see you in every quiet moment, every unsaid word. Mia's chest ached. She remembered the summer after graduation, when she and Lena had driven to Lake Erie. Just the two of them. They'd sat on the shore, sharing a bottle of cheap wine, laughing until dawn. Lena's hand had brushed hers, and for a moment, Mia had felt something she'd pushed away, terrified. Now, that feeling was back, stronger, undeniable. But so was the weight of her life, Tom's steady love, her boy's trusting eyes. She closed the journal and pressed it to her chest, as if she could hold the chaos at bay. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from Tom. You okay? Late tonight. She stared at the screen, guilt twisting in her gut. She typed a quick fine, just catching up, and hit send, hating herself for the lie. Back at the coffee shop, Elise sat down, her composure cracking. I don't know how to do this, she admitted, her voice softer now. We're supposed to be honest with each other, but I've been lying to myself for years. She looked at Tara, then Sophie, her eyes searching. David and I, it's not what it looks like. I stay because it's easier. Because of the kids, the firm, the life we built. But I'm not happy. Tara reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. Then maybe this is our chance, she said, her voice trembling with hope. Maybe Lena's song is a wake-up call for all of us. To stop pretending. Lena looked up, her face streaked with tears. I don't want to hurt her, she said. I don't want to hurt anyone. But I can't keep living like this. I love her, and it's killing me to hide it. Sophie stood, her chair scraping softly. We need to give Mia space, she said, her voice calm but firm. But we also need to figure out who we are now. Because this changes everything. She paused, her eyes meeting Lena's. And Lena, you're not alone. Whatever happens, we're here. The coffee shop closed around them, the barista politely nudging them out. They stepped into the night, each carrying a piece of the secret that had shattered their fragile balance. Lena lingered by her car, staring at the stars, wondering if Mia was looking at them too. Mia, still in the park, opened the journal again. The final line of the song hit her like a wave. I'll wait for you, even if forever breaks my heart. She closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. She didn't know what she felt, love, fear, or both, but she knew she couldn't run from it anymore. Mia didn't sleep that night. She sat in her car outside her house, the journal on the passenger seat, its presence a quiet accusation. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lena's face, those hazel eyes, wide with fear and love, pleading for something Mia wasn't sure she could give. By morning, the group chat was silent, a rarity for the 5 friends who usually filled it with memes and plans. Mia knew they were waiting for her to say something, but she didn't have words yet. She went through the motions making breakfast for her boys, kissing Tom goodbye as he left for work, but her mind was elsewhere, tangled in Lena's song. At the hospital, Lena moved through her shift like a ghost. Patients thanked her for her steady hands. But inside, she was unraveling. She kept replaying the moment Mia read the lyrics. The way her face shifted from confusion to something deeper. Something that terrified Lena as much as it thrilled her. She'd loved Mia for years. Quietly. From the edges of their friendship. Now, the truth was out. And she didn't know how to live in this new world. Elise, meanwhile, was in her office, staring at case files she couldn't focus on. Her conversation with David the night before had been brief. Perfunctory. Like always. She'd wanted to tell him about Lena's song. About the crack it had opened in her own heart. But she didn't. Instead, she called Tara, who answered on the first ring. "Are we okay?" Elise asked, her voice low, as if the walls of her office could hear. Tara sighed, her paint-splattered hands cradling the phone. "I don't know. But I think we need to be together. All of us. To talk." She paused, then added, "I keep thinking about Sophie. She was so quiet last night. That's not like her." Tara was right. Sophie had gone home and sat in her kitchen, staring at the cross above the sink. Mark was at a church meeting, oblivious to the storm in her heart. Lena's confession had stirred something in Sophia's memory of a girl from college. A fleeting moment she'd buried under years of prayer and denial. She'd built a life around being the perfect wife. But now she wondered if perfection was just another word for hiding. By afternoon, Tara organized an emergency meetup at her studio. A cluttered space filled with canvases and the smell of turpentine. The women arrived one by one, each carrying their own weight. Mia came last, the journal in her bag, her face pale but resolute. "I don't know where to start," Mia said, sitting on a stool, her hands clasped tightly. "I'm angry. I'm confused. But mostly, I'm scared." She looked at Lena, who sat across from her, eyes downcast. "You wrote that song years ago, didn't you? Why now? Why let me find it?" Lena swallowed hard. "It was an accident," she said. "But maybe it wasn't. Maybe I wanted you to know, even if I couldn't say it out loud." She met Mia's gaze, her voice steadying. "I've loved you since we were 20. I tried to stop, but I couldn't." The room went still. Elise broke the silence, her voice softer than usual. "This isn't just about you two," she said. "It's about all of us. We've all been hiding things, haven't we?" She looked at Sophie, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Tara, ever the peacemaker, stood and grabbed a canvas. "Let's do something real," she said. "Let's write it down, what we're afraid of, what we want. No judgment." She handed out markers, her eyes bright with determination. They hesitated, but one by one, they wrote. Mia's words were shaky. "I'm afraid of losing my family. I'm afraid of what I feel." Lena's were simple. "I want to be free to love her." Elise wrote, "I'm tired of pretending I'm okay." Tara's were hopeful. "I want us to be brave together." And Sophie, after a long pause, wrote, "I'm afraid God won't love me if I'm honest." They read each other's words in silence, the weight of their truths filling the room. Mia reached for Lena's hand, just for a moment, and the touch sent a jolt through them both. It wasn't an answer, but it was a start. As they left the studio, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Mia felt the journal in her bag, its weight a reminder that some secrets, once spoken, could never be silenced again. The next week was a blur of avoidance and ache. Mia threw herself into her routine school drop-offs, songwriting sessions. Dinner with Tom, but Lena's song followed her, its melody haunting her dreams. She hadn't spoken to Lena since the studio, but every time her phone lit up, she hoped it was her. Lena, too, was drowning in the silence. She'd taken extra shifts at the hospital, hoping work would numb the pain, but it didn't. She kept imagining Mia reading the journal again, wondering if she'd burned it or kept it close. The uncertainty was worse than rejection. Elise called a meeting at her house, a rare move. Her modern kitchen, usually pristine, was cluttered with wine bottles and takeout containers, a sign of her own unraveling. "We can't keep pretending nothing's changed," she said as the women gathered around her island counter. "We're falling apart." Tara nodded, sipping her wine. "It's not just Mia and Lena. It's all of us. I told Jake last night about how I've been feeling stuck. He didn't take it well." Her voice cracked, and she looked away. Her usual brightness dimmed. Sophie, sitting stiffly, spoke up. "I went to therapy yesterday," she said, surprising them all. "I didn't tell Mark. I needed to talk to someone who wouldn't judge me." She paused, her hands twisting in her lap. "I told her about college. About the girl I cared about. I've never said it out loud before." Mia's heart clenched. She'd always seen Sophie as unshakable, but now she saw the cracks. "What did she say?" Mia asked, her voice gentle. "She said I don't have to have all the answers yet," Sophie replied. "But I need to stop running from the questions." Her eyes met Lena's, and for the first time, Lena felt a flicker of hope she wasn't alone in her struggle. Elise poured another glass of wine, her movements sharp. "I'm jealous of you all," she admitted. "You're facing it. I'm still pretending everything's fine with David. But it's not. I don't love him anymore. Maybe I never did." The confession hung in the air, heavy and raw. Mia listened, her mind racing. She hadn't told Tom anything, but every time he kissed her, she felt like a liar. She looked at Lena, who was watching her with quiet intensity. "I don't know what I want," Mia said, her voice breaking. "But I know I can't stop thinking about you." Lena's breath caught, and for a moment, the room faded away. It was just them, the weight of years between them. "I don't want to push you," Lena said softly. "But I'm here. I'll always be here." Tara reached for both their hands, pulling them into a circle. "We're a mess," she said with a shaky laugh. "But we're our mess. We'll figure it out together." That night, Mia drove Lena home. The car was silent, the air thick with unspoken words. As they pulled into Lena's driveway, Mia turned to her. "Can I see you tomorrow?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Just us?" Lena nodded, her eyes shining. "Yeah, just us." The next day, they met at the lake, the same spot they'd visited years ago. The water was calm, reflecting the gray sky. Mia held the journal, its pages worn from her constant reading. "I don't know what this means for me," she said, her voice trembling. "But I know I feel something real when I'm with you." Lena stepped closer, her hand brushing Mia's. "That's enough for now," she said. They stood there, hands entwined, the world quiet except for the soft lapping of the water. It wasn't a solution, but it was a moment of truth, fragile and precious. Back at home, Mia looked at Tom, asleep on the couch, and felt a pang of guilt. She didn't know how to bridge the gap between the life she had and the one calling her. But for the first time, she let herself imagine a future where she didn't have to choose between love and duty. The lake became their secret place. Mia and Lena met there every evening, stealing moments between their lives. They didn't kiss, didn't cross that line, but their hands found each other, their conversations stretching into the night. It was a fragile bubble, one Mia knew couldn't last. At home, Tom noticed her distance. "You okay, babe?" he asked one night, his eyes searching hers. Mia nodded, forcing a smile, but the lie felt like a stone in her chest. She wanted to tell him everything, but the words wouldn't come. How do you tell the man you've built a life with that your heart is pulling you elsewhere? Lena, too, was struggling. Her husband, Chris, was kind but oblivious, consumed by his job as a mechanic. She'd never told him about her feelings for women, never let herself explore that part of her. Now, with Mia so close yet so far, she felt like she was living in two worlds, one real, one a performance. The other friends were grappling with their own truths. Elise met with a divorce lawyer in secret, her hands shaking as she signed the paperwork. Tara and Jake started couples therapy, their sessions raw and painful but honest. Sophie began questioning her faith, wondering if love could ever be a sin. They leaned on each other, their Friday meetups at Brood Awakening now a lifeline. One night, Mia and Lena stayed at the lake too long. The stars were out, the air cool against their skin. "What are we doing?" Mia asked, her voice breaking. "I can't keep pretending I don't want this, but I don't know how to let go of everything else." Lena's eyes were steady, though her voice trembled. "I don't have the answers," she said, "but I know I've never felt more alive than I do right now. With you." She reached for Mia's face, her thumb brushing her cheek, and Mia leaned into the touch, her resolve crumbling. They kissed, soft and tentative at first, then desperate, years of longing pouring out. It was a moment of clarity, but also of chaos. Mia pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "I need to tell Tom," she said. "I can't keep lying to him." Lena nodded, her own eyes wet. "I'll tell Chris, too. Whatever happens, we do this together." The next day, Mia sat Tom down. The words came haltingly, each one a knife. "I love you," she said, her voice cracking. "But I'm in love with Lena. I don't know what that means yet, but I need to be honest." Tom's face crumpled, and Mia felt her heart break. He didn't yell, didn't accuse. He just nodded, his silence worse than anger. Lena's conversation with Chris was messy. He didn't understand, his confusion turning to frustration. "Is this about me?" he asked, his voice rising. Did I do something wrong? Lena shook her head, tears falling. It's about who I am, she said, and who I've always been. The fallout was immediate. Tom moved to the guest room, his silence a wall between them. Chris packed a bag and left for his brother's, leaving Lena alone in their house. The friends rallied around them, but the weight of their choices was heavy. Elise, Tara, and Sophie brought food, wine, and listening ears, but they couldn't fix the pain. At the next meetup, Mia and Lena sat side by side, their hands clasped under the table. We're not okay, Mia said, her voice raw. But we're trying. And we're doing it together. Elise raised her glass, her eyes fierce. To being honest, she said, even when it hurts. They clinked glasses, the sound a small defiance against the chaos. Mia looked at Lena, her heart full and aching. They were stepping into the unknown. But for the first time, they weren't alone. The town buzzed with whispers. News of Mia and Lena's confession spread, carried by small-town gossip. At the grocery store, Mia felt eyes on her, judging, curious. She kept her head high, but inside, she was crumbling. Her boys, too young to understand, asked why Daddy was sleeping downstairs. Each question was a dagger. Lena faced her own battles. At the hospital, colleagues whispered behind her back, their smiles tight. She threw herself into her work, but the weight of judgment was heavy. Chris called, asking to meet, his voice softer now. I don't get it, he said when they met at a diner. But I don't want to lose you. Lena's heart ached. She cared for him, but her love belonged to Mia. The friends met at Tara's studio, their sanctuary. Elise was blunt. People are talking, she said. You need to decide how much you care. Her own divorce papers were filed, and she was navigating her own storm. But she was fierce in her support. Tara, painting furiously in the corner, chimed in. Let them talk. You're living your truth. That's what matters. Her own therapy with Jake was helping, but she still felt the strain of their unraveling marriage. Sophie was quieter, her faith shaken. She'd stopped going to Mark's church, unable to reconcile her heart with his sermons. I'm scared, she admitted. But I'm proud of you both. You're braver than I am. Mia squeezed Lena's hand, drawing strength from her. We're not brave, she said. We're terrified. But we're done hiding. Lena nodded, her eyes shining with determination. They decided to face the town together. At the annual Harvest Festival, Mia and Lena walked hand in hand, their friends flanking them. Whispers followed, but so did nods of support, small, quiet acts of acceptance. A teenage girl approached them, her eyes wide. You're so brave, she said, her voice trembling. I'm like you. Mia's heart swelled, and she hugged the girl, feeling the weight of their choice ripple outward. That night, Mia and Lena sat on Lena's porch, wrapped in a blanket. This is harder than I thought, Mia said, her voice soft. But it's worth it. Lena kissed her forehead, her touch a promise. We'll get through it, she said. Together. Back at home, Mia found Tom waiting in the kitchen. I don't know how to do this, he said, his voice raw. But I want to try. For the boys. For us. Mia nodded, tears falling. They weren't a couple anymore. But they were still a family. And that meant something. The friends gathered the next day, their bond stronger for the cracks. They laughed, cried, and planned, knowing the road ahead was uncertain, but theirs to walk together. Months passed, and the town settled into a new normal. Mia and Lena moved in together. A small apartment filled with music and light. It wasn't easy parenting schedules, judgmental glances, the ache of broken marriages, but their love grew stronger. A quiet rebellion against the world's noise. Elise finalized her divorce, finding freedom in her solitude. She started dating again. A woman she met at a conference. Her smile brighter than it had been in years. Tara and Jake found a fragile peace. Their marriage evolving into something new, built on honesty. Sophie left the church for good, finding spirituality in quiet moments with her friends. Her heart lighter with each step toward herself. The 5 women met every Friday. Their laughter louder now. Their stories raw and real. They shared their fears, their triumphs, their love. Mia wrote a new song. One she and Lena sang together, their voices blending in perfect harmony. It wasn't about hiding Anna Maria, it was about living. One evening, at Brood Awakening, Mia stood to read her lyrics aloud. The coffee shop was packed, the town watching. Her voice shook at first, then grew strong. We found love in the cracks of our lives, in the spaces we dared not name. Lena's hand found hers, and the room faded away. It was just them, their love a beacon. The crowd clapped, some with tears in their eyes. The teenage girl from the festival was there, her smile wide. Mia realized then that their story wasn't just theirs, it was a light for others. A reminder that love, in all its forms, was worth fighting for. They left the coffee shop hand in hand, the stars above bright and unyielding. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs, built on truth and the unbreakable bond of 5 best friends who dared to love out loud. A year later, the 5 friends stood on the shore of Lake Erie, the place where it all began. The water sparkled under the summer sun, and their laughter carried over the waves. Mia and Lena were planning a small wedding. Nothing fancy, just their friends and family who'd stood by them. Elise was there with her new partner, her smile unguarded. Tara and Jake were stronger, their love reshaped but enduring. Sophie had started a support group for queer women in town, her faith now her own, free from judgment. They spread a blanket on the sand, sharing wine and stories. The journal, now filled with new songs and confessions, lay open between them. Mia picked it up, her fingers tracing Lena's words from that first night. This changed everything, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Lena leaned against her, her eyes bright. It gave us everything, she corrected. The others nodded, their hands linked, a circle of strength. They watched the sunset, its colors bleeding into the sky. The world hadn't stopped turning, but they had changed it, one honest moment at a time. Their love, their friendship, their Kurugite was a song of its own, one that would echo long after they were gone. As the stars appeared, Mia whispered to Lena, "I'm glad it was you." Lena smiled, her heart full. "Always," she said. The 5 best friends sat together, their laughter a melody, their love a legacy. They'd face the fire and come out stronger, proving that sometimes The greatest love stories are the ones you never saw coming.